Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Charlotte Patrick and I'm an independent analyst covering AI, automation and analytics for telco. And it's my pleasure to be taking you through some of my recent research into GenAI with a particular focus on its ability to improve customer experience. This webinar is kindly sponsored by Vitria, and I will also be taking you through a couple of interesting case studies from their work with GenAI. So I have been speaking with telcos recently for my research, and they were all talking about GenAI being used across the organisation, mostly on an ad hoc basis, some delivered as part of products and services, and then some model training internally for specific use cases. But what wasn't really clear to me was how much was being committed in the terms of actual money, as I got conflicting messages. One telco said they're investing a lot, others said not so much. So I asked a question on LinkedIn, which only got 12 votes, so it's not hugely scientific, but I think was fairly clear that most organisations were probably not investing a great deal of cash at the moment. And I would say, based on my conversations, that this is probably fairly representative. What is the exact state of play in terms of barriers and future drive? So what are the things impeding progress today? Well, first of all, of course, hallucinations. I would say that the mood seems positive about the future, where a mix of mitigation techniques and also a mix of models are used to improve responses. But it's going to be complicated and expensive. And there is a lot of reticence to let GenAI go native today and be doing either customer-facing things or things that are unsupervised. So I would imagine, 2 or 3 years before these get really resolved. Under the heading of cost and sustainability, this is a general issue across all sorts of AI, and I see some really interesting upcoming research topics around, what will happen when we have 10,000, 20,000 models deployed in the telco. I believe that, the hope is that small language models will take over from large language models for most use cases to make things more viable. And also there's a hope for some sort of Moore's law equivalent on the amount of compute needed for running AI. It may also be that large language models and other large models can be trained to complete multiple tasks, which is interesting. Will we see a telco brain? Well, kind of probably not, but maybe we might see a brain that would take over certain parts of the network and run multiple models and solve multiple issues at the same time. Regulatory and reputational risk. In general, you see a number of complaints that EU might stifle innovation. But then I was speaking to Elisa's CDO the other day, and she said, we need good quality regulation. Running models is like driving a car. You can go faster if you have a seat belt on, and I really take that point. The EU AI Act has a new risk category for GenAI, systemic risk. This means that GenAI providers, regardless of the risk the model poses, must create and regularly update technical documentation with details of training and testing processes and evaluation results, and make it available to those using the model. They must also comply with EU copyright law. They must publicly share a summary of how the LLMs are trained, and also do an ongoing series of evaluations and monitorings. I have heard discussions really of two remaining questions for telcos. Number one, who owns the regulatory burden if an open source LLM is used and as part of another telco model? Who owns that burden? And I believe that this is the sort of thing that's being discussed at the moment. So hopefully we'll have some sort of resolution for that in the near future. Also, what happens as the market continues to change quickly? Will there just be more and more onerous regulation? Now, that is a much more difficult question, and only time will see how that works. However, we have a powerful tool. At my last count, I have 110 use cases in the telco, which I think I could see with monetization value, and I'm sure I haven't captured all of them. Also, things are improving very quickly. I was speaking with Steve Jarrett, who is Chief AI Officer at Orange, and he said, I spend hours a day just keeping up with new models and developments in the market. So things are on the move. Practically, I think that experience of training and model selection and prompt engineering is growing in the telcos and the vendors, so beginning to see the necessary skill sets to be using these types of models. And also, GenAI is part of what the Gartner would phrase the composite AI. So this is where LLM is just one type of model in a telco's AI deployment, bringing particular attributes to some models and being monitored by other models. Their prediction is, which they made in 2022, is that composite AI will reach maturity in 2 to 5 years. Now, we are in year 3, and I would say we've probably still got another couple to go at least before we see some of the more sophisticated use cases. Moving slides. My next slide looks at where GenAI is gaining traction and where it might be going to be most impactful. So this is my diagram that I've been updating over the last 18 months. Please excuse all the words on it, it's just a really complex topic. In blue text, so these are use cases seen today. I've just been doing some analysis, and this is where the most press releases, the most discussions I'm seeing are happening. And then the blue boxes are the full list of expected use cases where I see the most impact. One of the pieces of work I do is to look at the financial impact, and this is where I am expecting the most dollars to be made. The rows describe 7 ways in which GenAI will be used in telcos. First of all, the one we all know about, content creation. Here, there's also a range of other related capabilities such as translation and proofreading of text. And we see generally a lot of ad hoc usage of LLMs in the telcos, and also the need for control mechanisms to stop company data from being included in open source model training. So a lot of focus from IT today. Then under the next number 2, human machine. So this is centered around improvements in natural language understanding and generation, providing better human machine communications. So this could be for chatbots, IVRs, and internal digital assistants. This is the area where there's the most press releases about deployment, and these are split between more internal examples such as using tools for employees to ask questions to HR. And so it's all about testing out capabilities on internal data. And then also you do see a number of press releases about the deployment of bots with GenAI for use by customers. Human to human, this is the use of GenAI as to support human interactions. For example, the improvement in digital assistance in the contact center. Here, as in another couple of places, summation capabilities are useful, either to provide a contact center agent with a quick view of past interactions between a customer and the company, or to summarize a call. And I'm going to come on and just describe a couple of use cases in future in this area in my next slides. So knowledge management, a group of GenAI use cases related to telco catalogs, knowledge bases and other stores of information, for example in contact centres or field services. GenAI capabilities will bring improvements with natural language understanding and generation to either improve the knowledge base itself by undertaking gap analysis or providing the ability to summarize materials or to create FYI, new summarizations, or from putting GenAI as digital assistant capabilities on top of the knowledge store by using GenAI so that it can be better. Knowledge can be found more quickly and easily. So process improvements, a catch-all category. Where there are things that I couldn't decide where they fitted. That includes GenAI's uses in improving of processes in general. This is obviously includes the creation of code, its use in testing as well, GenAI's use in testing, and around the management of processes. So, for example, the ability to create APIs, or the improvement of process documentation for code or for these APIs. Currently, most announcements are around code creation rather than APIs, but expect this to be a busy area in the next year or so. And then number 6 is data management. This category includes management of underlying data and activities such as governance. Today's primary use cases appears to be around the generation of synthetic data, with Gartner predictions that by 2026, 75% of businesses will use GenAI to create synthetic data, up from less than 5% in 2023. I know when I speak to people about synthetic data, there are questions as to how useful it is, but Gartner would say that this is going to be a rising area of importance. And then lastly, intelligence improvement. So this is the use of GenAI to improve various types of model within the telco. Here you see enthusiasm for its uses, quite often just general assumptions that GenAI will be the model that does a prediction, for example. And then you see counter discussions which say that there are other models that are likely to be better. I think the argument for using GenAI is strongest currently in an area of anomaly detection. So, for example, GenAI brings in very specific capabilities. For example, variational autoencoders and other autoencoders can be trained on a large data set of normal or clean data, and these models learn to encode and represent the underlying patterns of normal behavior in the data so that it can be used for anomaly detection. It can also provide other specific enhancements to models for prediction and prescription as well. But it's on balance, despite the initial enthusiasm in this area, I don't see it as the area in which GenAI is going to provide the most value to telcos. So next, this area is specifically discussing the use of GenAI to improve customer experience. And this is a 2024 survey from NVIDIA asking telcos about where they are investing in AI. It found that customer experience optimization is the most popular AI use case in 2023, with 49% of respondents, which was pretty much unchanged from their 2022 survey. It should be noted that this is for all types of AI and that there is quite a balance of interest. So there is a sense of trialing AI across the telco, but with customer experience as the most important thing to be focusing on. And also elsewhere in the survey, they looked specifically at GenAI and its use in customer service and support was the most popular investment area, with 57% of respondents ranking it highest, and 96% saying that they would either increase or maintain their AI spend in 2024. So there seems to be plenty of momentum in this area. The question is obviously, where is this momentum likely to be? So you will recognise this graphic as the same one before, but I have changed to slightly different colours to show the areas of customer experience impact and where I expect those to be. Not unexpectedly, it is mostly about customer interactions with new capabilities from some of the larger AI players, including GenAI to monitor customer intent in order to track the primary reasons customers contact the business and to categorize those. This will enable the service team in the contact center to prioritize actions that might be needed to improve contact center journeys. And this same sort of tool can also generate conversational highlights and summaries alongside the customer satisfaction scores, so that these can all be stored in the CRM for understanding and decision making in the contact center. GenAI can also listen to a conversation and then enter customer data in a data field so that the agent doesn't have to. This frees up the agent to be present on a call and also eliminates or helps to eliminate human error, because agents are, they're receiving a barrage of information when they're on a call, which they need to remember, and this can be difficult. So these are all just kind of useful tools to enable agents to do their job better. And then also in the same area, and a related issue is when agents are super keen to finish a call and they need to enter information about the customer issue and its resolution. They tend to just tick a box on at random that may relate to the issue or that may not, so that they can move on. So instead, you can start to feed anonymized transcripts of those calls into a GenAI summarization engine to provide more accurate diagnosis diagnosis of the issue and better tracking in the CRM. And then on the network operations side, so I have two really nice examples of GenAI improving customer experience from Vitria to take you through. The first is in the area shown in red text in the second row of the diagram and is about providing improved information for operations teams. In this first case study, this is the VIA ChatOps capability. It aims to improve communication between the various operational teams around service assurance and performance management in order to improve incident response times. A typical issue that elongates response times is that you've got a very complex stack of physical, hybrid and cloud infrastructure, and it's running complex applications on it, which makes performance management and the ability to quickly pinpoint issues extremely difficult. This means, therefore, that the different silos of operations teams, which are communicating through the ticketing system, have a tendency to play ticket ping pong, which means long mean times to repair and restore. The VIA ChatOps solution uses GenAI to search and synthesize all unstructured data, which could include IT service management tickets as well as other relevant data off the network. And it comes back with the most likely solution through a chat-based interface. They have a large tier 1 in the US using this solution, which has found improved cross-correlation across service delivery domains and different monitoring solutions, improvements in cross-team alignment and knowledge sharing, the codification of specialist human knowledge, as well as reducing the mean time to restore services. The second of the Vitria case studies is as shown. So using my diagram here again, the second of the Vitria case studies is from the last row here in red text. Here we are looking at the use of GenAI to help resolve complex issues which often take hours or days to resolve. In this solution, operations staff feed a description of the fault conditions into the LLM. These descriptions might include an incident signature, its constituent signals and dimensions, and historic incidents with associated resolutions. And then based on this information, the LLM then makes a determination of the most likely fix and returns with instructions. In this case study, another North American Tier 1 found that determining the right fix manually could take hours and days of mostly manual labour-intensive analysis, and that some quick fixes only resolved performance issues for a short period before the problems resurfaced. And they therefore outsourced much of the manual analysis of complex situations with all the associated costs. To improve resolution time and reduce costs, they implemented Vitria's VIA AI Ops, and the GenAI was able to recognise patterns of data that may not be immediately apparent to humans, and was also trained on incident tickets, war room chats and transcripts, and knowledge bases to determine likely fixes for incidents. Vitria tell me that the outsourcing of the complex analysis, which has been going on historically, is planned to be discontinued within 6 months, and that there has been good accelerations of network incident resolution times. So, in conclusion, GenAI doesn't solve all problems, but there are some interesting new solutions to age-old customer experience issues coming onto the market, which is always exciting for telcos. It seems to have a particular sweet spot around where humans and machines work together to improve customer experience, and especially if there's a lot of complex information and data floating around. So here we are obviously talking about the contact center and the networks principally. Looking more broadly, we are some way from GenAI being let loose within automations, although it has the potential to be part of, as Gartner would say, composite AI, or something like a multi-agent system where it makes decisions on what agents are needed to complete problems. So watch this space for new and exciting things. And then lastly, when looking at the types of solutions in the 2 case studies we've seen today, these need good quality data and training, which are most likely to come from a vendor with a pedigree in working with the data and getting answers from it. So if you're not planning as a telco to DIY, it will be really helpful to have a broad understanding of the backgrounds and capabilities of the vendors before purchasing a model for them. I think that that's really important. So thank you very much for your time today. I hope that I've provided some useful insight that moves you along your decision-making path around GenAI and customer experience.